well, what are you going to do? And Be My Own Boss was written for that. You can print the darn thing off on your computer. You can send a copy to your legislature and say, this will free me up. All I want to do
That's why I love it and endorse it. And it's not just Mike's personality, although I like Mike a lot. It's not just that. It's that it's easy. It's lit, and it should be easy.
It should be easy.
It's like how I think of taxes. Like, dude, taxes could be an index card.
Yeah.
Especially for a W-2 employee, it should be 3 lines here.
There are jokes about that, but yes, I agree. These labor laws were not written for people who are working. They're people who are working. They're written for people who are not working and making money from it.
Right.
So it's, like I say, everything that happens in government happens for a reason. So
yeah.
We need a law, and that's why we wrote "Be My Own Boss," because we could see this coming. We knew how popular it was. I've been living with self-employment my entire life, all 300 years of it. I'm the son of 3 generations of professional musicians. Every one of them was self-employed, and it goes back to 1893 when my great-grandfather came over in his 20s. He was a clarinetist, and he had a gift for putting on band music shows that people wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
That's self-employment. And his kids, my grandfather's generation, formed the Cleveland Symphony, which is still around. There were 8 of them. They all played 2 or more instruments. Phenomenal family. Then the 3rd generation mostly followed. By that time, that was the end of performing music. Now it's all recorded. So I went into something else, but I've still been self-employed my whole life.
See, I know that there's a lot of traditional work in there too, but I don't understand why we are so set on demolishing arts. Because when I looked at the 608 non-carve-outs, I mean, there's like 100 in film.
Yes.
Basically, anybody in film can't work.
Anyone in film entertainment, video entertainment.
You're done.
Yeah. Those entire businesses are contracted. Without a movie, there's nothing there. There's a president and a couple of accountants that file. Everybody else is brought in for a project. A couple guys in finance. Got to go get money. And
I mean, knowing production myself, working it for 20 years plus. I mean. You need gaffers, you need grips, you need stage hands, you need lighting experts, you need truss masters, you need pyrotechnics, you need lighting, you need sound, every position is independent contractorship. Yes, sometimes union people are brought in as like event staff. That's different. The true mechanisms are all independent.
Look at the defense industry. It's the people that make the weapons that protect us used to. That's all project work. You get a government contract and you make 170 fighters or helicopters or something. Well, if you don't get the contract, you lay everybody off because we don't sit around needing guys who design helicopter rotors if we're not going to make any the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's why guys become self-employed.
So as we wrap it up here, what's the message? What's the best thing for people to do today? Because the March 11th date is rolling up.
March 11th is rolling up. I would say you need to think carefully about your future and where you're going to make money. Because as it stands right now, nothing in 2 months is going to stop the steamroller from coming for these self-employed jobs. People might find a little bit around the edges, but you're not going to get a job. You're not going to get a full offer for those people. I mean, you've been working in Duluth, Minnesota, and you've been dealing with people in the Sun Belt designing, hotels. You are not going to work for a Louisiana hotel. It just isn't going to happen. They're designed. They're done.
But there's so many businesses that won't be able to on top of independent contractors. There's so many businesses that won't be able to exist without independent contractors.
I would say that I would learn the names of your state rep, your state senator, your federal rep, and your two state senators, and I would get cozy with who they are, and I'd write them a letter or an email, or even call their office if you're a little nervous about doing that. Call them in the evening when they're not home. Call them on the
But
week.
there's no reason to be nervous, guys. I spoke to Senator Priola, who I don't agree with, when we did the town hall here. He showed up. Stephanie showed up with her legislation. He was the one that shot it down. We all had a great conversation with him. And that was face to face. There's no reason you should be afraid to contact your elected officials.
Right. They're not. They run for office every 2 years, most of them, except for some senators, and they want to they want to do what the bulk of the people want them to do. So
right.
And I would so that's the first step of the clout is be heard. Otherwise, you're a minus one. You can be a plus one, and then you can go from there and build on it. So, and then I'd sign up with this legislation.
Yeah.
Join Steve's. Join New Jobs.
Yeah,
America.
guys. Hit up newjobsamerica.com. Hit up driver rights.org. Here, I'll put it up here for just a second. If you guys haven't already, that's what we were referring to earlier. And when I said I'm standing by Mike on this legislation, we have 70,000+ signatures on this now. I mean, like in New York State, we have 8,000. I love to hand that packet to Mike. Here, add this to yours.
We would love to do that.
So, I mean, now it's like Mike has an arsenal to go in there, because we were talking, New York's a big problem right now. That's a whole nother thing. But it's a huge problem. But for every state, we've got it all broke apart. So if you're like, hey, Alabama's going through I can just toggle a couple things and pull all the Alabama people. It's like, I'm not saying they will be. I'm just pointing it out. Like, that's how easy access we have to these 70,000+ names. But add your name to this rights.org and go there, because the only things it's going to ask you are I'll only show you guys 2 screenshots because we've talked about this before, but I just want to show you that, look, if you agree with these, that they hide information from us on the gig platforms. It should be completely transparent. They stop you from using tools. We're allowed to use any tools that we want outside of the hiring entity. We can't do that. And they deactivate with no feedback or due process. So if you believe in these 4 principles, that I'm in charge of my work, I have a say in the system, my time is valuable, and I own my data, go over to driverrights.org and sign it, please. Because that's all that we're going for there, is just that you agree to that. Again, Mike's legislation, good stuff. The driver right movement, good stuff. There's nothing bad behind this. It's not like we're saying, hey, in the background there's a union. This is the opposite. That's why not all legislation is horrible. Do we want it in every space? No. But when things get out of control, and if you guys think these gig apps will start paying you more, even if all the illegals left the platforms, they're not going to pay you more. We've never seen that since 2009 when Travis Kalanick launched Uber. There's been upward climbs and honeymoon periods for pay, but then when it starts declining, it's never come back up on any platform. So, of course, they honeymoon period to populate the app. But don't think that just by sitting still you're going to get paid more. You're not.
No. The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah. And it sucks, but that's true. I mean, I'm just, we're not trying to be jerks here. It's just, this is what it is. This is where we're at. And there's a government that wants us that thinks we're too stupid to have the right to make our own decisions. I mean, that's what they say anyway. Really, it's all about them, but they use that excuse. You guys are too dumb to understand what you're doing. And I don't feel that way. I know Mike doesn't. And everybody in this country has the right to go be their own boss.
Look at it, Steve. I look at it this way. It's a choice of law. We're giving people a choice of employment law or contract law. And everyone says, well, that's radical. But wait a minute. You want to get married? You have to go through a rigmarole much more complicated than this. And you get to be, judged under marital law as a married person.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't make a big deal out of that. We don't have a Department of Marriage, with 27,000 employees, just trying to define marriage and happy marriage and comfortable marriage and, whatever. We have a military. You go into the military, you play by their rules. You agree to that. And there was one other one that's very common. Momentarily, it's gone.
That military one threw me off because I'm just thinking about some scenarios going on here.
Driver's license. You got a driver's license. You don't think a thing about it, and yet you're no longer a pedestrian. You're going to be judged as your responsibility. You hit that hydrant, you hurt somebody, you go the wrong speed. You're responsible for it, pal. And we have people that are married, driving, and in the military. Can you imagine all the responsibility they have? And they carry it out flawlessly.